Good afternoon. Welcome. I'm Wendy Goldberg. I'm the Executive Director of the Tri-Faith Initiative, and I'm so excited to spend today celebrating all that has transpired over 2022. We have so much to be proud about and to celebrate, and also still so much chaos and uncertainty in the world, which I like to wake up every morning and decide that Tri-Faith is perhaps one of the reasons to get up in the morning, particularly on the darkest days, because we have each other and because the work that we're doing is actually addressing so much of the what distresses me about this world. I don't even have all the words for the siloing of our communities and the mistrust and misinformation that the last several years have required us to walk through. But today, particularly at the beginning of this conversation, we are going to try to stay as positive as possible and to celebrate. And I'll tell you, we're going to do, I've had this conversation 3 days in a row, first with our board, many of you who are here today, thank you for joining us, to celebrate all that we have accomplished in 2022. And then yesterday, the Tri-Faith staff and all of the clergy sat together to be reflective also about where we've come and where we hope to go. And then now today with all of you. And in this conversation, which I hope it will be, I invite you to add on to the conversation of the things that you have come to appreciate. And since it's a small group, we're going to be able to do that together over the course of this hour. I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and let's see here if that is not how I want it to look. So I'm going to try one more time. I apologize. Thank you for your patience. I want this to go into full screen, and then I'm going to, it's not going to work. I'm going to get over the fact that it doesn't look exactly how I want it to look. In 2022, we had lots of things that I think were great. Above all of them, for me, as the executive director, a priority for us was to raise the profile of Tri-Faith, for there to be more people in Omaha, in Nebraska, in the United States, and across the globe who know what the Tri-Faith Initiative is and is looking to us for strength. And so that has happened, and we are getting outreach from, I spoke on a UN panel last week, and we are certainly having more Omahans show up at the things that we do. So these are some of the things that I've heard us celebrate, but perhaps I'll unshare for a minute, and anyone who would like to take themselves off of mute and say, what is something that you have participated on or you have witnessed in the last year about Tri-Faith that you are celebrating?
I'll go.
Please.
The conference that you had was unbelievable. It was so well attended. There was such a diversity of speakers in person and on Zoom. And there was so much opportunity there to learn that it was, I think a lot of people were kind of upset that they couldn't go to everything because there were so many concurrent sessions. But I think that was a fabulous program, and I really appreciated all the effort that went into it.
Thank you. We are very excited and I hope that you have June 8th marked on your calendar for this coming year. We're even talking about extending the conference a little bit to the night before, should we be able to secure the keynote speaker that we're hoping to secure. Who else? Thank you, Kathy. Lisa.
Okay, and this is a small thing, but compared to the gigantic things we do too, but I have loved making the familiar strange. I think it's been very, very interesting. I actually participated in one of them or spoke at one of them, and was really nervous about it, but did all the preparation, and it was very interesting. It just is a great program, and the attendance is getting much bigger too as we progress. But anyway, that's just one small part, but it's an interesting thing, and I think we're broadening that a lot, and it is just very fascinating. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Megan, do you think that maybe just as a response to that, can you maybe just tell us a little bit more about what it has been and what you hope with your contributions that Making the Familiar Strange will be?
Sure. So our
I'm not sure everyone knows you either, so maybe start there.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Megan Griffiths. I'm the new Mission Advancement Coordinator at Tri-Faith. I started on October 31st, so still getting my feet wet here, but really, really enjoying it. And so as Mission Advancement Coordinator, I help to coordinate programming. And one of the programs is Making the Familiar Strange. So I've been a part of 2 of them now and watched some of the older ones, including Lisa's. And it's an opportunity for people to share our shared stories. So some of the intention is around like looking at shared scripture stories between the 3 Abrahamic faiths. It is not exclusive to that. If people, like I shared on Advent this past month or earlier this week. But looking back at some of the scriptures from the Hebrew Bible and the Quran that kind of related to the Christian celebration of Advent. And it's just a chance to share things from people's own perspectives. We want it to be very informal. That's the goal. And so I don't want people to feel pressure if they choose to do it, that it has to be perfect. It's really just how these events or stories speak to you in your own personal life, and sharing that, and then having a discussion around that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
What else are we celebrating from 22?
I'll go. I noticed, this, happen, that I think all 3 centers helped reduce the anxiety levels of anyone new walking in through their doors, be it through the tours, and most importantly, through the taste of Tri-Faith. So, I know for a fact I saw quite a few, new faces at the taste who happened to be, family units who were kind of anxious, kind of scared. And then once they went downstairs at AMI and enjoyed the culture, enjoyed the food, I mean, they can't wait to come back. So reducing anxiety, I think, was, key for me, this past year.
Thank you. Very true. What else?
Wendy, I can talk about our September 11th activity. I was working the welcome desk, and it was a pretty exciting place to be, as literally thousands of people stopped by. Not even all of them did, but everybody was in such a positive, upbeat mood, and all the activities were enjoyed, and they were varied enough that everybody that came found something to be happy about. And of course, that overhead view that was taken with the drone, the picture was, that was fabulous. And I'm sure we're going to use that when we advertise for next year. And it could be bigger. It'll probably be bigger, which is almost kind of alarming, but I'm sure we'll rise to the occasion. It was a certainly outstanding way to welcome the community to the campus.
Thank you. I agree. Anyone else? We have a lot of gardeners on this call. Come on. Chris?
Well, the garden was definitely my focus with all of this. And I met so many people that my path would never have crossed without being part of the Tri-Faith Garden. It has been tremendously rewarding, both spiritually for me and personally for me, as well as knowing that we are providing sustenance for so many families that would not have the fresh produce. I highly recommend coming out to the garden anytime.
Yeah. Kathy, can you give us some reports on the numbers that you ended up in the garden with?
Sure. We had over 2,000 hours that were counted as volunteer hours, and that included people, not just those you see on the call, but people from the community, from AMI, Countryside, the Avador. We have some great volunteers, especially one from the Avador. And then this year we had just over 5,300 pounds of produce that we delivered. So not only did we make connections with each other in the garden, but also connections in the community. So for example, during the United We Walk, we had people on the walk who were from the Intercultural Senior Center who we deliver to, not just Caroline Padilla, the director, but also some of her staff. So it's just a really, like Chris said, a very rewarding experience on many levels. Excuse me, creating the community within the Tri-Faith Commons, but also reaching out into the greater Omaha community. So it's also fun, right, Abdul?
So I don't know if everyone knows about the relationship. So you're talking about the relationship on the Commons and the relationship to the external partners, but there's also an even deeper relationship with Temple through the Teva Room. And could you tell this group a little bit about Temple's focus and how the Teva Room is contributing to their religious school and their programming that then is supporting the garden?
Oh, sure. So, and the other Temple Israel people can pipe in, please. So Teva is a Hebrew word that means nature. And at the beginning of last year, is it last year? Is it 2 years ago now? Probably. That a donor provided money for this classroom at Temple Israel that we could start growing seeds there. We start in March and April to grow seeds for the garden. So we grow our seedlings there. And the classroom is also a teaching classroom in the religious school. So the kids in the school, Bonnie Leiserwitz is the teacher there, and the kids work in the classroom, they learn in the classroom, they come to the garden. They did plantings this year with us in the garden. And importantly, another aspect of Temple Israel's involvement is all the water from the garden comes from that building. So that's all donated from Temple Israel. Chris, Eileen, can you help me out? None of us are very quiet, so I don't know what this muted mic situation is.
I'm on my phone. That's my problem. But yeah, as Kathy said, the Teva Room actually is more than just the nature room at the temple. We've had many other visitors come and help with all the planting and visiting, and a lot of people, when we first started, didn't even know that room existed, and now I believe through different publications and pictures and things, more people are aware, and there's been some donations to help us with that effort. And I think without that room, it would be hard to have amassed as much produce as we did this year compared to last year. So that that room, and I guess Bonnie isn't on the call, but if she was, she would tell you that that brainchild of a room has, you know, become a great asset to Tri-Faith, as well as other individuals that have seen the room and thought, what a great idea. And I think one or two visitors said, hey, we should start something like this where we are. So maybe other places will be starting nature rooms too, which would be a wonderful thing.
Beautiful. Thank you. I see Karen and Jean, you're both on the call. I know that the women's virtual lunch has become an important part of your routine. And I was wondering, maybe you could recruit a few people here today if you tell about that experience that and what it has meant for you. Would either of you be willing to share?
I guess I can go ahead. I've been helping with leading and running the Zoom with Jean and Linda. Attendance has been down, so ladies, bring a friend. And we try to, we don't always have a topic. We try, we're going to try to possibly have a topic, to talk about, to focus discussion on, but with attendance being what it is, that's kind of fallen by the wayside. So right now, we need more people to get interested. Just come once a month, spend an hour chit-chatting about the weather, something you're making, craft-wise, hobby-wise, or, whatever concerns you might have. Just an hour to spend a little bit of time and not have to be on and doing, just being yourself.
Thank you.
And I have to say, yes, we wish we would enjoy having more people. I think when the group started out, it was a little bit bigger than it is now. But on the other hand, Karen and Linda and I have had some deep and interesting conversations, and I think have gotten to know each other at a much higher level than we had in the past. And that was part of my interest in having a women's group too, that our people's group. To me, it doesn't have to be women. Abdul, we'd love to have you come if you would want to join us. but it's, from the Tri-Faith perspective, to hear people from different perspectives share ideas and thoughts and, come together to talk about what books are you reading? What did you do the last few days? How does that relate to life in general? What's happening? It just has been to me, a really good way to share. So yes, we'd invite more and more people to come. It would be wonderful to get to know more people better on that basis.
Thank you. Megan, I'm going to put you on the spot one more time to talk about Coffee on the Commons.
Sure. So we are starting a new social program starting in January, and our goal is to do the third Thursday of every month about 11:30, so that way it doesn't interfere with Rabbi Azriel's class Thursday mornings. It also just encourage people coming to Rabbi Azriel's class to just come on over. It'll just be a very informal coffee hour. Just we'll have decaf and regular coffee. We'll have some teas set up. Our hope is that eventually it will travel around the commons and be shared by each of the congregations and buildings. We're not in any hurry to do that. We don't want to put pressure on anybody, because we also just want to see what kind of attendance we get. But we hope it grows and builds, and we're excited to see what could come out of it. So again, low stakes, no pressure, but we'd love to have people come by and have a cuppa.
Thanks.
Just to add on to that, the garden people, when we stopped working actively in the garden, one of our newer gardeners who's actually working full time and just comes on Sunday, she said, can't we continue to meet? So actually, we just had our second meeting, Coffee on the Commons, from the garden group. So next month, Abdul was going to find a time at AMI. So maybe we could just link those two things. And the thing about the whole, when you do things on Tri-Faith, it's so complicated, as you know, because people can't come for coffee if they're working full time. So we did one Sunday morning at Temple, and then we did another Sunday just at Countryside, 9 to 10. And then Abdul was thinking we do a Saturday at AMI. So maybe working together, we don't have to duplicate this, but we already started.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea of it growing and having different dates and times. It's great.
Yeah, because some of our people are working full-time, are non-retired gardeners, and that's always hard to program for them.
Sure.
And
Lisa,
Temple,
something to add?
I was going to say, Temple Israel has a really great coffee maker. So, if you plan there, you can get all kinds of lattes and different things, not just decaf and caffeinated coffee. I just wanted to say something, or ask a question, Kathy, of the garden. Aren't you planting also some more exotic herbs and things like that? I think at one point we realized that there was a particular herb that was used in a dish that from Egypt, I think. Did you ever plant that, or?
Right, it's called Malakia, and we did plant it, and we will plant it again. And also we are reaching out to the South Sudanese people through Christine Rice, and then through the Latino community to see what else we can grow. That might be something that is missing at the regular grocery stores. So this year we did grow Malakia, we're growing it again. And we also grew a lot of other herbs, which we donated a lot to the Intercultural and to the Stevens Center.
Nice. Before we move on, I would really love, we spent a lot of time as a board and staff on strategic planning, and I would love to give you a little window into some of that work, but I don't want to cut anyone short that has anything else that they would like to celebrate or acknowledge about our successes in 22. Anyone else? All right, with that, I figured out how to share my screen, how I wanted it to look. Starting with our mission. So given that our mission to co-locate is complete, it's important for us to understand what Tri-Faith Initiative, the 501c3, is focused on. And cultivating inclusive environments, we acknowledge and celebrate that our first project is the co-location of a church, a mosque, a synagogue, and an interfaith center. But we also are realistic with ourselves that the religious landscape has shifted and that not everyone spends even an hour a week in their house of worship. And so if we are to address the shifting religious landscape, the underrepresented religious communities, celebrating religion, and also acknowledging some of the pain that comes for some oppressed or marginalized communities or individuals as a result of their religious identity, that we need to go into workspaces, into schools, into higher education and healthcare, just to name a few sectors, in order to advance our intention to build trust and relationships about interfaith beliefs and behaviors in order for everyone to feel that they have a place to belong. And that's how we get to our vision statement, which is to build upon realizing that for some people, interfaith work has to do with celebrating what is similar about us. And for other people, the focus is on celebrating our differences. And for you individually, I'd like to invite you to ask yourself, if you feel most comfortable with what is similar about the people that you have come into relationship with as a result of your tri-faith experience, then in 23, I invite you to think about moving to the place of what is different that you are ready to honor in someone whose identity is different than you. And if you have been spending time focusing on the differences between the religious traditions or the expression of religion, even within your own religious tradition, then I invite you to think about what is similar with you and others within your own religious tradition or a spectrum of religious experience. that invites us as a team, as a board, as staff, and I hope as a community to really remember these values that we have set forward. Empathy is not about that old model of walking in someone else's shoes. When we walk in someone else's footsteps, particularly on a snowy day like today, we dampen out their footprint from even being visible. And empathy in 2022 means to listen to other people's stories, to believe them to be true, and to say, wow, if that makes me uncomfortable, I must not know their story well enough. I have some listening to do, and maybe I have an accountability that is making me uncomfortable. And how might I look at that more closely? That's a very important part of our work in order to create an inclusive space where all ideas and people are valued. And that comes to courage. In this world and so much uncertainty, it's bold to do what we're doing, and in particular to have the expectation that people can hold more than one truth at a time. And that particularly when we're going to be talking about religion in the public square, people have discomfort with that and its intersection with race and its intersection with politics, or even inviting the conversation around mental health. If we go to our places of worship or we use our religious identity to find comfort in uncertain times or rituals or practices, how will we do that in order to learn to adapt and thrive, given all that we are walking through? And then we come to lifelong learning, because if we can continue to learn from each other, we will continue to move this impact forward. This page is probably the page that I am most excited about from our strategic plan. And although I don't think we'll talk about all of these today, as we started to put a strategic plan together, we realized there were some basic assumptions that we needed to make sure that our staff were all on the same page and that our board understood that these were topics that we are ready to talk about and to move forward publicly. And I've asked Corey to talk through some of these for us today, and then we can spend some time talking about them together if you have any questions. Corey?
All right, I think we're good now. So as Wendy mentioned, we're not going to go through all of these, but there are a few really important ones that I think stand out that I want to delve into here.
I'm sorry, Corey, can you introduce
the first one,
yourself
model
first?
how diverse religious communities and
Corey?
non-religious engage each other in beneficial ways, maintain their distinct identities, and thrive.
Corey?
Oh,
can you introduce yourself first?
you're gonna lost some. Here.
Corey, can you introduce yourself first?
All right. Let me
Can you
see
hear me?
here. We'll get this right. 1 second.
Can you introduce yourself first?
Getting a lot of echo because you have two mics open in that room.
All right. Is the echo still there?
Good.
Okay. First of all, hi, I am Corey Oldenhouse. I joined the Tri-Faith team in August. I am the communications manager. And yeah, there's really a lot of exciting things, and it was a pleasure to hear about a lot of the community things that are happening in Tri-Faith, whether it be the garden or, you know, meeting up in, you know, kind of unplanned coffee hours and just getting into community. And I think that that's part of what we think about when we take that piece and, okay, scale it up. What do we have to share? What do we have to model for the world? So that's what I'm excited to talk about here. So that first one, how do you be in community with difference? And I think that, Wendy, I know you talk a lot about this, but moving from the golden rule to the platinum rule, not just treating people how they want to be treated, or how you want to be treated, but treating them how they want to be treated. And for me, how I make this click in my head is it's not that the golden rule is out. It's just knowing when the platinum rule applies. For example, I have a buddy like just last night, that moved into my apartment complex and he needed some tools. So I thought to myself, when I moved into that same apartment complex, I didn't have those tools. I wish I would have had that. I wish I would have had someone to lend me those tools. And that informed my decision to let him borrow my tools. That's the golden rule. It's not outdated. But why the platinum rule? Well, I don't have a difference of experience. I don't have a difference of cultural background to bridge in that example. But when I do, right, I can't necessarily relate to someone's shared experience, maybe their cultural background. So I have to trust that they'll communicate that of how they want to be treated. And I think that's something that's really important too. And I think about, for example, just because how do we want people to show up for you? And how do you want to show up for others? I think that's a really important piece, because there is no one size fits all. I mean, if there's anything that we're discovering here and that we have discovered on the commons, it's that. I think, again, it gets into a larger discussion about equality versus equity, right? I mean, you can't have one size fits all for such a wealth and diversity of different traditions and backgrounds. So that's what it means to be a neighbor, and that's how you are able to build those bridges. And also, too, I was just talking with Abdullah Najjar at AMI about this, and he said something that I really liked. And he said, there's so much that communities can do even when they disagree. And he said, do we need to debate serving the homeless? Do we need to debate being there for disadvantaged communities? And I love that, because it's just a reminder that we can respect and honor difference, and we can even discuss those things and share with each other. But I think furthermore, it's important to realize the opportunities where we can come together and be in community without sacrificing identity, asking anyone to change their common beliefs, because that's not real unity. Unity is not uniformity. It's not sameness. And I think that's what is captured in this first one for me. I would also like to draw attention to we affirm the value that religious identity and community can bring in times of joy, strife, and everyday life. This is important because a lot of our programming, you've seen with Race, Religion, and Social Justice Conference, and you'll see it again next year. And also as we consider things like the Religious Equity Seminar, we're talking about the role that religion plays, not just in personal identities, but in society. And it's important to note that, as Wendy kind of alluded to earlier, there are many for whom religion isn't a warm and fuzzy feeling, but for whom it is a difficult source of pain. And I think, how do you bridge that gap? How do you build an inclusive community per our mission, per our goal, to include folks like that? And I think the key is to looking at the way that religion shapes our world. And joy is a big part of that. I mean, there's so many people for whom religion is a source of joy, but it is all of these things. And I think that allows us to talk about those difficult things, about how religion is been used and shapes structures in society. And then it gets into the kind of the next bullet point there, acknowledge the role of religion in public discourse and societal organization and structure. I try to tell people when they ask about Tri-Faith or they come for a tour, I mean, even if you're unaffiliated with religion, even if you don't have a religious or, faith creed that you adhere to, religion shapes your world, and it will continue to shape your world. And I think it's important to look at it honestly together and know that the person who is very connected to their faith can be in community with someone who is not at all they don't relate to religion in that way. And I think that is an important gap that we're really interested in, widening that table and bringing folks on board with that. Wendy, are there any other ones that you wanted me to bring up here? I mean, those are just the ones that I like talking about a lot and that really stick out to me. But I think everything here really shows what we can focus on as we grow.
I guess I'd throw it to the audience. is there anything here that you have questions about the wording of or the intention? Anyone? Would like to know more? I would say you did a great job, Corey. Thank you very much. I feel like I feel like I want to look at everybody while I say this. I'm going to stop that for a minute because it's harder for me to see both screens. But there's an experience that happened in the last month that that speaks to everything that I just was talking about our strategic plan. And that is that we partnered with the Jewish Federation of Omaha, and we invited some members who were on an international field trip from Israel. And they were Arab and Jewish women. And they came to the Tri-Faith Center as part of their experience to visit with some of us that are here today. And it was beautiful that we were able to be in conversation with each other and that we were able to be a model of what peaceful coexistence can be. And they also were a model that many of them live in towns where people live in harmony in Israel together. And during the conversations, it wasn't all perfect. And my new term that happened was there was some shoulding that happened. And you know what? We need to stop shoulding all over each other. That's my new term. And I think that you'll remember it because of how it's said, but we do it so frequently. We say, you should have worn different shoes today, or you should have a coat on, or you should not eat that, or not serve that alcohol while those people are here, or whatever the thing are. We have these judgments that we make about others. And it relates back to what Corey was saying about the platinum rule. We know we intend to talk to our neighbors with our heart, but sometimes we just get human in the middle of that mix, and we say the thing that comes out. And some of that happened where someone was questioning, why are you shouldn't introduce yourself, in particular in this situation, as an Israeli. And it was a question about whether they should identify as Palestinian. And there's not a right answer. There's just curiosity, right? Because I get to choose how I talk about my identity. Someone is coming into my house, so apologize for the patience for that and disruption. But the reality is that when we're meeting new people, we need to be curious, and we also need to be patient. That this risk that we take in being courageous in these new relationships means we're gonna make mistakes. I'm going to say something that's going to offend someone. And I'm also going to need to hear that was or was not their intention, and to take that opportunity to learn. And the closer we get in proximity to each other, and the more often we gather, the more likely we are to make mistakes. And in this really bold experiment, that's going to have to be okay. And we're going to have to find that resilience to be okay on the other end of how those mistakes or risks or experimentation in our relationships play out. And we can either be really excited about that, like, wow, I really learned something and I exceeded my own expectations of my resilience, or we can stir and spin and wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning still thinking about it. And I do both. And that's okay. And so I also want us to invite each other to be in those conversations, to be like, I'm in this conversation with you, and I think what just happened was a microaggression. Is that what you meant to say? You know, is that how you meant me to hear it? And if we get curious with each other and say, you know, how did you come to believe that that was your next comment or statement? Then we hear each other's stories, and as we hear each other's stories, we have opportunities to deepen our relationships and our understanding and appreciation for difference. So it is going to be hard work. I think that we've done so much to get close, but as we bring in the next group of extending our tent audience, it's going to get harder before it gets easier. And I just want to say that out loud, because it's a little scary. And especially when celebrities and people with power and influence are doing ugly things. You know, how are we going to speak back to Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and anti-racism? And how are we going to hold ourselves accountable? It's hard work. Anything anybody else wants to add about that? I feel like Jeremy Fricke would say, thank you for coming to my TED Talk now, after he finished that little soapbox. But it feels real important. Let's go back to this next thing. So the other decisions of the board that have been made is that our collaborators and our audience start with the founding faith congregations organizationally and their members individually, but our constituents are local, regional, national, and international. Everyone is welcome to participate in Tri-Faith, and that includes people who are allies and change agents and affirm that all people relate to religion differently. Now, this is enormous because our name is Tri-Faith Initiative, and we are the co-location of 3 Abrahamic traditions. And our audience is that and more. And that means we're going to talk about Western and Eastern tradition. We're going to talk about atheists and atheists and agnostics. We're going to talk to people who are seekers and who are wanting a community of meaning, but not perhaps one of ours. And that is what we're doing in the name of advocating for religious pluralism. That's the reason, that's the why. And we need to increase religious literacy in order to do that. Our 3 objectives for our strategic plan, and we go into much more measurable depth, but I want you all as some of our top fans to know what our 3 main objectives are in our strategic plan: to deepen our obligations and relationships among the partners of the Tri-Faith Commons. That looks like more hospitality. It looks like more opportunities to gather on roundtable discussions, maybe around anything from theology to how to be an anti-racist to knitting. Literally everything can be included in the how we gather and how we deepen our relationships to each other. We want to increase awareness and engagement with the Tri-Faith Initiative through programming and our marketing strategy, and to help identify how this audience has grown and will continue to grow. And finally, we can't do any of this if we don't have financial stability. And I'm happy to report in 22, we were very successful in our fundraising goals. And one of those main goals was to diversify who we are raising money from. And so that will continue to be an objective and a goal. Some opportunities in 23. We are going to launch what we call the Religious Equity Seminar. The intention of the Religious Equity Seminar is modeled after the Racial Equity Institute, which is a 2-day training that teaches about the history that marginalizes and oppresses racially underrepresented communities. The Religious Equity Seminar will teach about Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, practices that have kept Indigenous communities marginalized or oppressed, and other underrepresented religious traditions that we may know less about. It will do that at the same time that we honor what Corey was saying, that we want people to still have hope and understand that how people relate to religion also includes joy and ritual and tradition that is beneficial in our life. And that we're going to pilot as a staff in January and have a soft launch of our first seminar in we hope by March. We also have received national funding to launch our first emerging clergy seminar. That is a partnership with Hebrew Union College, Chicago Theological Seminar, and Bion Institute. And we will be inviting hopefully 15 upcoming clergy to come to the Tri-Faith Commons to have both a virtual cohort experience over the course of a year and then an immersive extended weekend on the Tri-Faith Commons, advancing their understanding of the value and the practical application of interfaith work in their religious practice as a spiritual leader. The Garden and Orchard, we intend to intensify that effort and grow it, and also to be realistic that the Hope Gardens location presents challenges for us because of some of the location that it's at with erosion, as well as watering, and some challenges for accessibility. And so we are looking at some other locations that might move where the orchard is, but not move our commitment to having it. Taste of Tri-Faith is shifting a little bit. This might be a great place for you to pipe in again around Commons partner opportunities. Megan, can you share with us where we're at on those projects?
So we are in the process of working with the 3 communities for Taste of Tri-Faith. They're all going to take place in March. Let me look at, see if I can get the dates here. I don't have them handy.
We can send them out after.
Yeah, but it's like, I think it's the 3rd, the 10th, and the 26th, I believe. Starting at AMI, then Temple, and then Countryside. And they're, you know, the primary focus is to extend hospitality, not only within the Commons, but the broader community. Be a chance to attend a worship service and then eat a lot of food. And I know AMI is centering theirs around the various celebrations of Ramadan based around the countries represented in their congregation. Temple is going to do a Shabbat service, including a Tot Shabbat for kids, which I'm super excited about for my daughter to attend. And then Countryside is going to do theirs around Lent and the Stations of the Cross that they now have. So please come to all of those. And we're also working on in the early stages of planning, like a worship etiquette guide, either like a program where we present it or just a brochure that would be in all 3 places about what's expected when you're visiting a congregation. So everything from dress codes to just the order of service and what's expected. If you know, how to just observe instead of participating, or what you're allowed to participate in, that sort of thing. So we just want people to have a low barrier of entry and feel as comfortable as possible in all 3 places.
Thank you. The Race, Religion, and Social Justice Conference we already spoke about will be happening again. I think an exciting addition. The request for proposal is available now, and we are getting warm response from thought leaders across the country. So I'm certain it's going to be exceptional again. we're talking about adding some new strategic partners, but we have already added one, which is the Journal of Interreligious Studies. It is a journal that is a project of 3 seminaries, and they are going to do a special publication of the journal following our conference that will include the presentations that are given at the conference. And so we'll have the conference in June, and then 3 or 6 months after, because I'm not exactly sure what the production time of all of that getting completed, we'll have a keepsake to be able to document as resources the materials that are presented at the conference. And so that's a bit of a game changer and particularly exciting. Similarly, we will be doing United We Walk again. It will be our primary fundraiser for the year. We are not going to be using Vic Gutman and Associates for project management for that. And instead, we are going to have a larger staff focus on that, but also there'll be many more volunteer opportunities for all of you to help us make that magical day happen. So if you're interested in being on the working group for United We Walk, we are just formulating what that committee structure will look like, but that's quite an opportunity. And then finally, just like I mentioned, our third objective, development and fundraising will continue to be a focus for me, but for all of us. Individual giving is a very, very important part of the success of the work that we do. We can't do what we do if we don't have the support of individuals in our community. And we wouldn't be able to finish this conversation today without me reminding you that each of your gifts are important. And so I, no surprise, just put the link in the chat if you might be able to, or have not yet given your year-end gift to us. I promise you I'm working pretty much day and night to be able to ask other funders and people from coast to coast to support our work. But your individual contributions mean everything to me personally and to the work that we're doing. And they really do help to move the needle. The religious equity seminar will also be a project that we charge for. So we are looking to kind of change some of the model of our educational experiences to be things that we are a consultant of. And so we imagine that training will be have a certification, and we will be able to offer it in the for-profit community as well as in other faith communities. And if there are places that you feel might be interested in us coming and offering that service, please let us know. Similarly, we've had quite a bit of success, maybe a little bit too much success in our facilities rental. And I say too much success because we've had a lot of people who want to have their family and life cycle events there. And it's the wear and tear on the building has been disappointing, I guess is a realistic thing to say. And so we've pulled back a little bit in terms of that, and also our capacity to have parties there till 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights is a big lift for our staff. So we do want to be a convener and a community center, and if there are things that you anytime that you as partners want to be in the fourth building, we want you to be there. And if you are part of other community groups that you want to invite to come to any of our buildings, please reach out to us. And we want people on the Tri-Faith Commons. That's core to what we are doing. I think that's most of, I have one more ask of you today, and that is we are, it's important that we understand what's working and not working. And while we're talking about it today, our donors expect that we do some internal evaluations. And so I've put the link to our annual impact survey. If you haven't had a chance to complete that yet, it would be, I think it's about 10 or 15 minute tops experience to click through. The most clicks have to do with your demographic information more than the questions, so that we can understand who our audiences are. But we would love it if you would take time to click on the survey link and complete that for us too. The last few minutes, are there any questions that anyone has for any of us or each other?
Should we introduce Khalil?
Oh yes, Khalil, please. Khalil, you're quiet over there. Introduce yourself, please.
I should probably put my video on. Huh? Oh well. Hi, my name is Khalil. I just started last Monday. I'm the new administrative coordinator here. I'm just taking in a lot, learning a lot, and hoping that in the upcoming 2023 year, I'm able to go and visit each and every one of your communities and learn a little bit more about all of you, what your respective organizations, congregations are doing, and hopefully share a little bit about myself too. So I will see you around after the holiday season.
Thank you, Khalil.
Hey, Wendy, I just want to make a comment. Your staff, from meeting with Megan and Corey and now Khalil, I mean, they're going to complement, you and Eric, and Jeremy. I mean, I see these guys doing great things. So I look forward to working with all of them this year.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree. We've got the right people in the right seats. Anyone else? Thank you to all of you. Thank you to all of our board for your continued support. A special shout out, Lisa. Thank you for your service and for continually showing up. She is rolling off of our board, and Eileen and Abdul are rolling onto our board. Nancy's staying strong for another year. So thank you. I know that it's a lot. One more little announcement I didn't make in case others did not hear is Temple did announce that they have hired a senior rabbi. Rabbi Ben Sharf will be joining Temple Israel in July. So Jeff Silverstein, who's on the call, thank you for your hours and hours of time for Temple Israel to bring our next spiritual leader. And we're excited for him to be a partner. And with that, may you go from strength to strength and stay safe driving out there today. Have a good one.
Thanks all.
Take care.